Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition, episode 78 of the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast. And it's great to be back. A new episode. Unfortunately, Ep is still sick, and we couldn't really get a time to schedule to record this week. So I'm bringing in a special guest co host for episode 78, Mizzou Outfielder. She's a star, and she's also an Epstein disciple, like me, too, by the way. Casidy Chaumont. Cassidy, thank you for doing this. We do appreciate this on behalf of the Epstein Hitting Podcast listening audience, myself, Jake, and of course, all of his students, past, present, and probably future as well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So while you're wearing your Mizzou sweatshirt, you go to Mizzou, you're recording this in a gorgeous locker room right now. So I guess we should just start off by, because actually Jake tweeted this earlier too, before we recorded this, aspiring Division I softball players. You're in a gorgeous locker room. You have, I mean, it looks like a locker room that's pretty top-notch, professional, probably better than some minor league complexes on the baseball side. So how do softball players, aspiring softball players, get to where you are? We're going to get into more of what Jake has taught you and kind of your approach offensively and whatnot. But let's just start with that overarching question.
Yeah. Well, I started off, so I say early recruiting. That's definitely a number one thing. I started exploring my travel ball options probably my freshman year. And then I got hurt my sophomore year. But then other than that, I would say try to start the recruiting process early. Get on teams that kind of go throughout the country rather than the local ones that just kind of go like your city limits, I would say. And email coaches. I can't stress that enough. You need to get your name out there, be able to even if you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm, want to go to this school, but I do it because coaches talk. They'll be like, hey, do you know so-and-so? And then it'll get around. And it's okay to say so you get hurt. It's okay to start at a smaller school, like a JUCO or a smaller D1. I started in a Sunbelt conference. I was recruited by Mike Lotief and Chris Malvo there. I stayed there for 2 years, decided.
What school?
I was at Raging UL, so University of Lafayette.
Okay.
At Louisiana. So I started there. I was there for about 2 years. I was like, this isn't it. I want to grow the game, go somewhere else. So, and then Chris, he ended up leaving my freshman year from UL and he got a job at Missouri. And so once I went into the portal, he reached out. He was like, hey, what are your plans? What are you thinking? I'm like, honestly, I have no idea. I'm just, seeing what's on the table, seeing what my options are. He's like, okay, great. Well, it'd be nice for you to come on a visit here, see what you're doing, see what you like. I'm like, yeah, okay. I was like, Missouri, I don't know. Seems a little chilly for me, but I went in the summer. It was probably in July. And once I stepped foot on campus, I loved it. I could tell it was for me. You could just feel once you step on the campus, it just feels like home. And that's very important. I feel like once you choose your future school, it's like an instinct. Some people are once they go on a visit, they're like, I don't know if this school's for me. I'm like, it's probably not. You'll know once you see everything, once you talk to your coaches, but you'll know what's for you. And then I think and having a good relationship with first your travel ball coaches, your high school coaches, and just surrounding people, being able to talk to them and get your opinion out there and I guess have someone to talk to about all your recruiting decisions, even if you're uncomfortable, be comfortable with uncomfortable, be able to have those tough conversations and, just ask your questions, so.
Well, you made a great point there. And Jake has said this before when we talked about our college recruiting volumes earlier in the fall about you have to feel comfortable at that school. And would you like that school if you weren't a student athlete? And I mean, that was a great point you made in there too. And that it's a lot more encompassing, especially with softball and on the girls' side too, because a lot of times on the men's side with the three major sports, and if you go to a big time hockey school, a Penn State, University of Minnesota, you've got the NHL on your mind, where that's not really the case when it comes to women's sports like softball.
Yeah. Unfortunately not. You just got, I mean, luckily now we have those athletes in limited sports, but it's still, I don't think it'll get as big as, major leagues and all the NHL stuff. But luckily you just gotta, like you said, you gotta be if sports was taken away from me,
Mhm.
would I be comfortable at this school? Like, would I still like this school? And for me, yes, I would absolutely still stay here. But like for softball, you got your 4 years, and some have maybe one or two in our small, national pro league. But
Mhm.
other than that, you just got to be comfortable. You got to know, like, once this sport's taken away, am I going to be okay? I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, this will do. It'll be okay. But
You can go to college football games. You can
yeah,
tailgate.
you could be a regular student, which would be very awkward and weird, but you get the hang of it.
Jake,
Have
would you
some time
join?
on your hands.
Would you join a sorority if that was the case?
Oh, I don't think I could ever. I see all the, like, they have more rules than we do. I
Oh,
see, like,
sure, sure.
I was like, oh my gosh, y'all can't, like, just really random rules. I'm like, I don't think I could do that. Like,
Well,
that seems
your
very tough.
sorority is kind of like your softball team anyway. You brought up something too I want to touch on, and this is on the baseball side. It's probably even worse because there's a lot of egos involved and a lot of pride, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And it's the tournaments and travel ball and the recruiting process, but more so the travel ball. What's that like for an aspiring Division I softball player? What was it like for you? And how can parents kind of decipher through that? Because your parents, by the way, your mom follows me on Twitter, which is great.
Oh Lord. Yeah, she
Uh,
loves her Twitter.
and good for her.
Yeah.
But she went through that with your dad, and your teammates' parents went through that. How can parents kind of go through and navigate that jungle in trying to get their daughter to play Division I softball? Because travel ball, that's all you hear about is
Right.
this travel ball team, this travel ball team, and sometimes it's just overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. So one year, me and my sister, so I was a freshman and she was a junior or a
Mm-hmm.
senior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So that was both of us in travel ball. That was probably one of our toughest years.
Mm-hmm.
And doing that, we would like switch weekends off. So my mom would go with me, I was going to like Arkansas, and my sister would be going to California. So they would like just pick who was going where. So then my mom would go with me, my dad would go with my sister.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was definitely taxing on the bank account, with flights and hotel
Sure,
stays.
yeah.
And I still to this day
And you had to
hear
pay, right? Your parents had to pay to
right. Yes.
play on
I
tournament.
feel like,
Yeah, right.
yes.
Travel ball teams.
I think there's some travel ball teams where they're high up, so like they help with that. But the ones I was on, we paid for it all, and it's definitely taxing on that and on your physical. I mean, when you're younger, so it's not as bad. You have all this energy, but it was pretty tough, I have to say. We'd go to like Arkansas, we'd play games. We'd have like those week-long tournaments, and so we'd go like Monday through whenever you lose out, and then you just you keep playing. And then, but there's so many memories that are built on it. You get done with your first game, you go explore whatever's in that state, as a team. You go see what's going on, and then we'll get FaceTimes from our other sister who's at Disney World in California. They're just living their best life there.
Yeah.
But it's tough if you don't think you're going to 100% want to play in college.
Yeah.
You need to figure that one out first, because you don't have summers. Like, I enjoyed it because I love softball. It's my sport, but you won't have time for the parties or for the, goofing off every weekend.
Right.
I think in middle school, or my 6th grade year, that's when I started like working out, not like any maxing out or anything, but
sure. But you were in the
like
cage, you were getting more dedicated.
Exactly. Like cage work, fielding work, workouts with like a trainer. That was probably 3 days a week. And then on top of like our tournament sports. So probably for about a good 15 or up like years of your life, you're going to be putting in work. So
right. Did you play any other sports?
I did. So, and so from middle school, I played like volleyball, basketball, soccer, and then softball. And I did that also until high school. And then my freshman year, I found out that I tore my labrum in my shoulder, and they were like, you gotta choose. I was like, I gotta choose, because I was really into volleyball and softball. My mom was a volleyball player in college. So I was like, I got the height, but I don't know if I can do that.
And how tall are you?
I'm 5'11" now.
5'11". Okay.
Yeah, I'm still growing. I think I have like some growing problem. I don't know.
Hey, you know what's better than being myself, 5'10" and capping out.
Yeah, you're right.
Capping out at whatever, 20 years old.
Oh, that's all right.
But I guess the lesson to take away from all of that, and the reason I asked if you play other sports, because you're talking about dedication to your
Right.
craft, your sport, and softball hitting is just as hard as baseball hitting, if not even harder. Sorry for all of our baseball listeners out there.
Yeah.
I know that all the baseball listeners, like to think that hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do, but I would say softball is right up there. But playing we talked about playing different sports on this show before and how important it is to an athlete's career and their development. But I guess the lesson to take away from what you were saying about travel ball is that you have to, as a parent, and again, you're speaking kind of for parents here, but you went through it with your two parents, your mom and dad, and of course your sister, as you mentioned. The lesson to take away is you better know as a player that you want to do this, and you better be dedicated to wanting to play in college if parents are going to put in that much time and effort as well.
Right. Exactly. Like, it's like I said, it's taxing. Like, they're the ones who are paying for it. They're going to be with you 24/7. They're your ride. They're your money source. They're everything. Like, if you're not 100%
agents,
yes, they're basically
de facto
sports agents. Exactly.
That's right.
They're your shot. They're your way to the top. Like, without them, I mean, you can do it, but props to those who did it without parents, because I definitely couldn't have done it without mine.
Yeah.
They're by your side 24/7. They're probably more tired than you are, because they're getting up at the crack of dawn. Well, at least mine was, like, getting our breakfast, getting all of our stuff ready for the week. And if you're not all in, I'd say, take a step back and make sure that's what you want to do.
Yeah. So be sure to like and subscribe to the show. Of course, Apple, Google, Spotify. On YouTube, you can watch the show. You can watch Cassie and I speaking, Ep and I speaking in previous episodes, the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast YouTube page, and follow us on social media at Jim Tara, at Epstein Hitting, and I'm sorry, Cassidy, I can't get your social media because your name is spelled interesting. And I'll get to that in a second, but go ahead. What's your social media?
My social media, I think, is just my name. So Casidy.
Yeah.
It should be _Chaumont, which is Chaumont.
Got it. So, okay. Yeah. So funny story about your name. Ep brought you up a while back on the program, and he was talking. And while he was talking, I was looking up your numbers because I wanted to back up his point, and he was stretching for me. So I was looking up your numbers, or trying to, on my phone, and I couldn't find your name. And I finally had to come out on the air and ask him, hey, how do you spell Cassidy's name? And I spelled your first name and your last name wrong. So I was way off. So I finally,
You're not the first one. I promise you, hardly anyone ever gets it right.
Well, we both have very hard last, you not so much. I have a very hard last name that's very long with a lot of syllables that people have gotten wrong my entire life. So I'm used to it too. No big deal. But yours, I put in SHO. No, that's not right. And I'm looking around. And finally I put in Casidy, Missouri softball, and found your numbers. And that's when Ep came up with your name, and we were able to pull up those numbers. Let's talk about the swing though. Now, when did you first meet Ep? And by Ep, we mean Jake.
For I think it was going into my junior or senior year of high school, I believe.
And why did you go to him? What made you say, okay, he's the guy. He's going to help me with my swing get to the next level?
So my sister, I played with Bailey for like maybe a summer. I was like probably 14 or 13. I was like filling in for my sister's 18U gold team, and Bailey Hemphill was on that team. And so, she's probably one of the best hitters ever. And she had been going to Jake since I think maybe her 8th grade year. And she was like very consistent, always put the ball in, play hard, mostly home runs. But I was like, we're like, how are you doing this? And then they were like, oh, well, we've been going to Jake since like 8th grade. I'm like, Jake. And so my mom looked him up, and I was like, huh. And my sister too, like, she like, this is me and her. And so we were like, we need to try this. So me and my sister, we went to Colorado. And so we made like a little family trip out of it. We went and saw the mountains.
Oh, sorry. So I have to ask you. So you went to Colorado, because this is how, now I worked with Ep. I've said my age on the show before, but since you told me you've never listened, I'll let you guess my age in your head if you'd like. But I worked with Ep in 2009. So what is that? 12 years ago, right? Officially 12 years ago. And I was around your age, I guess, I don't know how old you are, but 20, 21.
22. Yeah, I'll be 23 in January.
20. Okay. So I was younger when I worked with Ep. little couple of years younger, but I'll let you do the math.
Okay.
But I went to out to Colorado as well. Now, did you, and I
Oh,
have to ask, because my dad and me went, and we went to 2 Rockies games. We kind of did the whole, looking at the mountains, and we were in Denver, et cetera, et cetera. Did you
right.
work out at his father's house like I did? I mean, I worked out what was called the dungeon.
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, bummer. No.
You got to ask him about that.
I will, man.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I went to like their big indoor. At that
And
point, he was
you've never worked with his father at all.
no.
Oh, you should. So you should, if you get a chance, you should also, everybody out there listening, you should ask, if you want to work with Ep, you should ask, hey, I want to talk to your dad too. I got a chance to work with his dad too.
Man,
It's
I'll
like
have to
meeting
request that one.
he's the Don, his father. He's great.
Oh Lord, I could only imagine.
Yes.
But
I worked out in his father's basement. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. That's really cool. I wish I could have done that.
Yeah.
But I'm off track.
You went out to Colorado with your family, right?
Right. Yeah. So we went to his indoor. We started messing around like the first day. We didn't know what to expect. And he was like, so do y'all like need to tape y'all's hands? I was like, why would I need to tape my hands? He's like, you might get some blisters. I was like, no, we're fine. Had batting gloves. And I think it was, we might've been there for like 3 days, but it was like a morning session and then an afternoon session. And by only like the first day, the second session, I went to go open like a jar or something. I could not, like my hands were blistered. I was like, okay.
So they were worse than calloused. They were blistered. Do you have calluses, by the way, still?
Yes. So I have permanent.
Yeah.
I don't think they will ever go away.
I'm with you.
Oh yeah. We had a little, maybe some blood, some liquids coming from them, but I learned my lesson, taped them the next day.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm very like full force. I guess you could say like, if I'm going to hit, like we're going to spend some time doing it. And that's what I really liked about him. So, and he had all this cool technology. So like, he wasn't, and I'm a very visual learner. And so that really helped me because he had the video, he had the blast, and now he has the on form, I think it's called. And you can see every little movement that you make. You can see like your attack angle, which mine was terrible. This past summer was probably pretty bad too, but I fixed it. And that's when I knew that he got into all the details. He knew like after one swing, it might take me like a hot minute to be able to fix it, but he knew exactly what was wrong, exactly what to do. And yeah, me and my sister from then on absolutely loved him. We were like, this is the dude, like this is the one we have to see. Like there's no option. So we followed him to Colorado. And now luckily he has one in where's it at by A&M. So now we can go there.
The lab BCS in College Station, Texas. Yes.
And so that one's closer drive. So now we can just hop in our car, drive 5 hours. We're there, not a plane. But
how many hours? How many hours does it take you guys to get there?
To the lab?
Yeah.
Well, with my mom driving, she can cut off like a good 45 minutes. So I think that one was like 3 hours maybe or 4, but I think we hit traffic.
Okay. Yeah. It was, see, when I worked with him, he had different technology. He didn't have blast, and blast motion wasn't something that was around yet, but we still looked at video. How has looking at video and how has the blast motion technology, you mentioned attack angle, which is on blast, how has that helped incorporate your swing and what it is now and help you also make adjustments too?
Right. Tremendously. So like I said, I'm very visual. I need to like see what I'm doing as well as like feeling it, because someone could tell me like, hey, like your front shoulder is like you're pulling, like, because he likes to keep your front shoulder down until heel plant or toe plant. Right. And so he could be like, hey, like you need to lower it. But I hear him, but I'm like I need to see it. And so like,
because you don't feel it, right? You don't really feel that torque that's being generated. Because I felt the same way. And I said, I remember when I worked with him, I asked him, I said, I don't feel the torque. And he said, no, it's there. And then when we saw it on video, I did see that it was there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like he'll be like flatten the barrel. And I'm like, man, like I thought I flattened that one. And he's like, not, I was like, dang. And he's like, here, look. I was like, wow. Like, I swear I was doing it, but like, you have to over exaggerate. And that's really helped me because like I said, very visual, and I just need to see it. So I can be like, okay, so this is what I look like. And this is what I feel like when I'm doing it wrong. So let me like attempt to do it right and like see what I feel like, if that makes sense. Like I can see it, I can feel it. I'm like, okay. And then, and you can slow it down. You can see every little thing. So that's why I like using video and his his on form.
So that's really one of the strongest, that's one of the strongest points that Ep brings to the table, is that he uses video and he helps his hitters like you to be able to see actually what they're doing and what kind of adjustments they kind of need to make.
Right. As well as his IQ. Like his IQ for the game is absolutely ridiculous.
It's tremendous. It's
like,
unbelievable. It
I've
blows
never
everybody's
talked to
away.
someone with such a high IQ. I know. I'm like, what?
I can pepper. You and I talked off air, and we talked about how we just kind of let it rip. And we really, Jake and I, I mean, I do prep on my end.
Oh yeah.
But we kind of just let it rip. And I mean, I feel like I can pepper him with any question, not just hitting, but any baseball question.
Right.
And he will just answer it like that.
Oh,
and even if even when he says, well, I don't know, or something, even if he still come up with a really good answer. And I've always said too, I'm like, how is this guy not in Major League Baseball as a hitting coach or as a minor league hitting coordinator? But anyway, that's we're shilling for Ev right now because we both worked with him. But when you got to him, what were the biggest adjustments that you need to make in your swing? Because a lot of people, when they do come to him, and it was true 12 years ago, and it's true in 2021 going into 2022, that hitters, there's so much out there on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll talk about that too, trying to navigate that in a second. But what were the adjustments that you needed to make as a hitter when you first got to him?
So when I first got to him, let's see. I think like when I first got to him, I was hitting more like line drives and ground balls rather than like the long balls, home runs.
Sure.
And so I feel like back then that's what we were trying to fix, and maybe my hand load as well as using more like lower body. So that's where we started. And then I saw him that one time, and then I had to go to my freshman year of college. So then I had to lay off, like he was saying, and listen to my hitting coaches.
Good point. Yeah.
As well as last year. But then this past time, so with my last college, Chris Malvo, his whole concept is kind of like, back of the barrel. And so your bat head is basically kind of like slanted and you're like leaning. So like my attack angle would be like negative, I don't know, one time it was probably negative 20. And Jake's is like, no, we don't want that. I'm like, oh God. So at that point, so this past time, it was more like getting on plane, getting like a flatter barrel. And I think like the first time I saw him, I swear he was going to give up on me, because we were like, what is this? Like, I was so embarrassed. And it took me probably two whole sessions. And like his sessions are quite long.
Yeah.
And he kept saying, just do this. I'm like, I think I'm doing that. I was not doing that, but I was still leaning. I was still like pulling up my shoulder. Like it was just really bad. And then luckily the next day he's like, oh, well, dang, I thought I was going to, have to give up on you. I was like, oh no, just give me a little while. I'll get it. And luckily I got the flat barrel. I got the shoulder down. I got all the elbow. He calls it elbow, like the little person. So got that down.
He didn't. That's interesting. He didn't use that term when I was working with him.
Really? I think like I am so ADHD.
Does he still use the term torque? Does he still use that?
Yes, he uses that. Yeah. Yes.
How does he explain the separation of the body and whatnot?
So
and we're giving away all of his secrets. We're giving away, if you're listening, we're giving away all your secrets.
I know
today.
He's gonna come after us.
He's gonna be mad at us. But hey, listen, it is what it is.
It's all right.
He shouldn't have gotten sick. I
know. That's on him. But so one thing, I did it decently well, because that was like the whole thing I did with my last hitting coach. Like you had to separate. But one thing I started lacking on was like the hand part. So like I would go to load and I would never like fully, I guess, get that like stretch, as well as like when my hips start going, my hands started like kind of going with it.
They drifted a little bit,
like your hips going like the separation.
Yeah.
And so he would just tell me like, make sure you're getting like that extra load with your hands. And like I said, I thought I was doing it, but like he'll show me the video and I'm like, here. I'm like maybe an inch, but I felt like I was like fully extended. And so that's like one thing that he would say to help me, was that like, make sure you get the extra load with your hands, like as well as when your like lower half's already going. So that's how he explained it to me. I'm sure he has like more in-depth terms he uses with like different individuals, but that's what clicked with me. So
I wonder if a bat tip would help with that too.
Maybe.
That makes sense. right? I
Yeah.
mean, he's and Ep and I've talked about the bat tip, and obviously Ted Williams did it. Did he go over that with you, by the way? How his swing and everything, his teachings derive from Ted Williams, and he went over that, right?
Um, I
Pretty sure.
most probably I've
Yeah.
had so many concussions I can't really remember anything,
Okay.
but probably,
Probably. Okay.
probably I'm sure.
But I'm just wondering here, and Ep, maybe Ep can write into Jimbo Podcast 21 at gmail.com before he comes
Yeah,
back on next week,
hopefully.
about the bat tip. He's not a huge fan of it. It
Mhm.
depends, I guess it depends on the hitter, but if you're having a loading problem with your hands, I would think
Mhm.
that maybe doing kind of a bat tip would help sort of, I don't know,
Yeah,
delay that half second and be able to create more separation, if that makes sense, rather than
right.
just the hand. But I guess it depends on each hitter. I don't
Yeah,
want to say it's an absolute.
yeah, individualized a little bit. Yeah.
People can go back and listen to our absolutes episode of, that's like episode 2 back in
It's pretty early in there.
2020, back in the early run
Oh,
of the Lab Epstein hitting podcast. By the way, you mentioned that your first coach talked about, I guess, kind of barrel dump, right? I mean, that was kind of what he was
yeah,
teaching. How
basically.
did you navigate that? How do you navigate now the swing that Jake has taught you, with coaches in your ear telling you, hey, try this, or hey, you should do this, or hey, this is wrong? I mean, how do you
Yeah.
go about that?
So I hate to like, I don't know, I feel like hurt anyone's feelings. So I try to incorporate like everything they're saying with me, but that ends up just like biting me so bad because like
Right.
I'll have Jake swing and then I'm trying to like add 3 different people's like to it and it just does not, never, the results never there.
Mhm.
So I'll have to like ask them, hey, like, is it okay? So I've been hitting with Jake, like, is it okay if I do like this instead of this? And they're like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, like that's fine. Just like, talk me through it. Let me see the video. So like I'll show them some of my clips where Jake's like explaining like his reasoning for it. And they're like, what, like that kind of makes sense. I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
he's a pretty smart guy sometimes. So
Yep.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're very understanding.
Mhm.
They're like, okay, well, I mean, if it's working, if you're producing, like,
Yeah.
so as long as I produce, as long as I, get everything right, they're fine with it.
Okay. What about a bat leg and extension? How do you understand those terms, and how has he taught you those terms? Because bat lag to me is and hitting Twitter's gonna go crazy over this, I'm sure. They hate bat lag. They think it's just, they think it's non-existent. And if you watch real video, it's right
Right.
there in front of you. But I guess it's to the eyes of the beholder, right? You're going to see what you want.
Exactly.
It's that cognitive bias. But I think bat lag is so incredibly important in the swing, and it's not talked about enough. Does Jake talk about that with you, and kind of emphasize that that's very important and it's a huge element of the swing?
He has mentioned it, but like my focus was like mainly on the power V and extension one
Mhm.
because mine, like with the past swings I have done, like I said, you do like the back of the barrel. So like basically turn your hand and you're focusing on the bottom of the ball. But
Mhm.
like as you're swinging, so like your power V ends up way up. And
Mhm.
he likes to focus on like what he tells me is like the pitcher's shins. So it's more of
Sure.
like a level
Mhm.
plane. And so that, yeah, they're very drastically different, but he would focus on extension and making sure that like with the low, like with the barrel,
Mhm.
when I would do the high extension, it would make me top a lot of balls because I was going from like a low point, like excessive to the top.
Mhm.
And so then he would be like, okay, well, aim for like your power V or your extension to be at the shins. And like
Mhm.
automatically it was like long balls. Like it was like that little fix just made me, completely cut out the ground balls. I definitely had a lot of line drives in there, ground ball
Yeah.
every now and then, but it was mostly like the home run balls. I was like, wow, like strictly changing your extension can, completely change your bat path, your everything. I was like, that's pretty cool.
His
But
dad years ago described on the early version of their website, which is, I mean, if you get a chance to try to find that, it's
yeah.
still well designed, but it's not like it is now. It explained how his dad, Mike Epstein, talked about as a hitter, once these teachings are placed into your swing, you feel like the shackles come off. Did
Mhm.
you feel that same way, like the shackles are finally off in your swing, that you can hit the ball as far as anybody, that you can control your barrel, you can have good barrel control, still have good bat to ball skills, and still hit the line drives, go gap to gap? Did you feel like those shackles came off when you started working with him?
So definitely, like my first year, like I think it was going into my senior year. So I was struggling a little bit. Like I wasn't sure what was wrong. I went and saw Jake for maybe 4 days. And then I ended up having a tournament in Colorado, like that next, like probably the 5th day. And my the first day, like I hit 1 over and I was like, what? And I ended up hitting like 6 that week. I was like, this is not a fluke. Like, what did he do? What did he give me that is like magically changing my whole batting average and my whole swing? Yeah. And it was, yes. So absolutely, they fell off. They were non-existent. And then recently, like this past time, I went and saw him again. And like I was hitting great in the cages. And then I came here, I ended up tearing a ligament in my hand. So I actually just got back hitting 2 days ago. So I'm getting, the shackles are on a little bit, but they're starting to,
those are the
off.
injury shackles though.
Yes, those are the injury ones. It's going to take me like a week to, feel it again, but they completely went away. And you feel more free. You're like, you don't have to tense up. You don't have to like worry, oh my gosh, is she going to throw me? Whatever. You're like, it doesn't matter. Like I can hit whatever she's going to throw me. So that's just the mentality that comes when you go to Jake and you're like, there's nothing like I can't hit. He like fixed me. So I agree with.
What about the stride and your step? Because it's a little bit different in softball, correct? I mean, it's not being, the ball's not being thrown downhill. The timing window is a little bit shorter. What is your step, your stride, your load? How is that all incorporated with what you do? Just your approach at the plate.
So it was my stride now after seeing Jake has gotten, I'm like a little more in my legs now and a little wider. Yeah. Because he says that like it basically you can elevate the ball just going bottom half, but like an easier way, you can just get more in your legs, So that's what I'm doing. I have a little wider step. And like as I'm
is it a big leg kick or is it just kind of a step? Kind of a lateral step.
It's not a leg kick, but it's like a load. So like I bring basically like a knee touch. So like I bring my left knee almost touching my right one.
You're a right-handed batter, just for context purposes. Okay.
Right. Yes. So like as the pitcher's like going, I'm basically bringing my left almost a little in front of my right as like my hands are separating. And so like when I step now, they're hopefully like in place. And so
your left knee, are you doing a kind of a left knee, which is your front knee, front hip, inward turn?
A little bit. Okay. Not drastic, but like I am loading like a little bit of my weight like into my back butt cheek. Okay. That's what like our coach here, that's because
you load your weight into your back glute, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then that's like, when you come forward.
Right. Okay. And like Jake, like keeping my head in line with like my back leg, because he likes like your head to be like, if he can draw like a line or something from your back leg to your head, it should be in line. And so like keeping my weight in my back glute helps me do that, as well as like loading with my front knee and getting all my weight set back. And so then I have like a pretty big stride. I don't know, it's gotten bigger because I like it helps me be able to like get not under the ball but be able to elevate that ball. And so and mine doesn't really change with like the pitch count, or because some people do like a when you're down in the count, like 2 or like a protect swing to where like
when you're guessing, right?
Contact. And we don't really do that here. I mean, it's a great concept, I guess, for those who use it, but we just, you want to hit the ball long and hard. Like if there's a runner on base, that's not going to do much. It might get them into a double play. So I keep the same approach throughout my whole at bat. So nothing really changes for me.
So when you stride, when your front foot lands, where's the weight distribution?
I would say mainly on my back leg. Okay. Sometimes it's a little bit, obviously, is on my front, but like mainly it's going to be most on my back. A little even. Honestly, it depends on what the pitch is thrown. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think it's mostly.
But the swing is adjustable enough to where.
Yes. Yeah. Like whatever is thrown. Like if I land all on my front,
right.
I'll adjust. If I'm even, you adjust. So.
Okay. And you land now. This is something else. I know it's small, but it's also it's important because pitchers too, when evaluating pitchers, if they land just for context purposes, if they land too far open with that front foot, then their torque might be taken away unless they have a really strong core, which a lot of it's that's genetics at that point.
Yeah.
But do you land with your foot slightly open? You obviously don't do it, I would think, completely closed. Nobody should. No hitter, no pitcher
No.
should. Do you land slightly open, 45 degrees? Is that front left foot pointed? I'm trying to think, because you're right-handed batter. Is it
Right.
pointed towards the second baseman, or the right side of the infield? Where is that front foot pointed when you do land?
I think mine is pointed a little, so not at like second base, but closer to the second baseman.
Yeah.
So like if the second baseman is like pinching the middle, probably.
So you're more closer to the hole on the right side.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm not completely closed off, but I'm not like way open either. I'm a good like happy medium.
Okay.
I'm almost like hitting at second base. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't, you find that good happy medium.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll wrap up the show here. Two Epstein kids talking about hitting. Did I miss anything fundamentally though that you do in your swing that you want to talk about? I'm trying to think. I think I pretty much, I mean, you mentioned power V, which I love. I still use that term. Some people in pro ball, when I say that, look at me like I have 3 heads.
Oh Lord.
They don't use the Epstein terms like we do.
No, absolutely not. The only thing I can think of, because I've been struggling with it a little bit lately, is like my front shoulder. He emphasizes like when you're at toe plant, like your front shoulder should be down until like, you go for the ball and it will lift up. But I have been like, before I go to toe plant, it starts creeping up, and you can see that in my video. When I go back, I'm like, oh wow, like, stay down. But that's one thing I guess I would emphasize when I'm hitting, because it can completely change your result. Like it can make you do a lot of weak ground balls, I think is one thing he said, and like maybe foul off a lot. So like when I do that, I'm like, oh, like maybe my front shoulder is slipping up, because it should be down. Like like I said, when your front foot plants, it should be down. So actually your weight, I guess, would be almost evenly distributed, but so I would say my front shoulder.
Yeah, front shoulder is very important to the torque.
Right.
Getting the torque angle. Did you guys go over that on the blast motion too? Is there a torque angle on the blast motion? I can't remember. I don't think there is, actually.
I know there's a tack angle, a launch angle, and like your bat speed and exit velocity.
Launch angle, good point. And I want to bring that up. And also exit velocity, although more so launch angle.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? How important is that to you, if at all?
I think it's pretty important. Also, like, my attack angle was the thing, like for me, which was one of the really important ones, because I was coming in, it was like negative, and that's like the main reason why I couldn't figure everything out, because I was here, and his is like not this drastic, but that's what I had to think like that, to where I could like overcorrect. But I think
so. You had to think chopping down.
Correct? Yes. And he mentioned like, have you ever played pepper? I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, well, like try to incorporate that. And that's like what clicked. I was like, pepper, like all you do is, and that's literally what I had to think. And I was like, I'm literally chopping at the ball. And then he showed me the video, and I was like, exactly where he wanted me to be. I was like, what? I was like, oh, right. I guess negative cancels out. But that's one thing that like really helped, and like helped me fix it, as well as like the launch angle. Like, I don't know, that was pretty bad too. Honestly, it was all pretty bad until I went and saw him.
How much emphasis do you put on launch angle then? Do you worry about that at all, or are you more so attack angle?
I am more so attack angle, but I know launch angle is also very important with him. Just my issue was more my attack angle. Like that's where I was having a lot of issues at.
Yeah. What about exit velocity? How much emphasis do you put on that individually? Do you worry? In other words, do you worry as much about hitting a certain number?
No, not really. I mean, I saw like his chart in there, and I was like, I saw Bailey Hemphill's name. I was like, what is she at? And so I was like, God, I have to. And then like at that point, I was like, Jake, come on, like, then we started just for hex. Like I was trying to get to hers, which I don't think I don't know if I did. But other than that, like just trying to like one up her, it wasn't really huge. But
all right. Well, be sure to email us your questions, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. A couple of things I wrote down here that I want to touch on before we wrap up the show. Thank you again for your time. Casidy Chaumont, do appreciate it. Mizzou, could I say star outfielder, or should you want to be modest and just say Mizzou outfielder?
You could say outfielder. It doesn't matter.
All right. Mizzou outfielder, star. Let me just touch on 2 points here. First, well, I'll get to the overall approach at the end. What can prospective players kind of expect? Prospective softball players wanting to play in college that are in high school, even in middle school, what can they kind of expect when they get to the collegiate level, the things that you've been through as a student athlete? You've mentioned that you've transferred, and that's a lot of work as well.
Right.
The hours that you put in. I mean, if you ever see Casidy on Instagram, she posts pictures she has before of her at football games, but it's not always that easy, right? Because you're doing so much work on the weekends, and
Exactly.
and you're a lot of weight room work, and et
Right.
cetera, et cetera. And of course, I'm guessing you go to study hall. Do you have to do that? Yeah, probably, right?
Early in college, yes, but like
Okay.
as I'm a fifth year now, I don't.
Okay. Those are all the things that kind of encompass being a successful Division I softball player, or really any Division I athlete. But what can prospective Division I softball players, what should they expect if they want to play at the collegiate level?
So I would have to say you have to time management. That's one thing. You're good at it or you will be. I'm still working on it.
Mm-hmm.
But so like a normal day. So like on a Monday, we'll get up for weights at we wake up at like 5:20 a.m. We have weights at 6. And so we have weights, we have to eat breakfast, get our protein shakes in, and then we'll have a hitting group. So hitting groups, ours are probably only about 30 to 45 minutes, but they go all throughout the day because we have like 30 girls. And then during our week where we are able to, we have our full team practice. That is from maybe like 3 to 5. And then I'm luckily in a lot of online classes, like just because of COVID happened. But prior to that, you would have like your classes all throughout the morning. Most girls have like 3 to 4. So you're hustling. You got to normally pack your lunch, or we have like food here because a lot of the girls don't have time to eat. So you pack your lunch, and then the freshmen, they have study hall. They can do that either in the morning or at night, but sometimes it's just good to like get it over with.
Yeah.
We'll have treatments before or after practice. It's better to go before too, because if not, you'll be in there from 5 until probably 6 p.m.
Yeah.
So we get done about 5:30, you get dressed, you go get some food, you end up doing your homework, go to study hall. But I'd say it's basically like a 12-hour job. You wake up at 5:20 in the morning, you don't go to bed until midnight, depending on how much homework you have.
Yeah.
It's taxing. And I mean, I really enjoy it. Like, it's not anything negative. I mean,
but it's a routine that you get into.
It's a routine, and that's Monday through Friday. I mean, if you have an off day, you're completely off, but you still, I mean, many of us, we still will go into the cages. We'll get that extra work in. I mean, you don't always feel like it, but you know that it'll help in the end.
Yeah.
But it's a Monday through Friday job. It's all day, every day, 12 hours, but I enjoy it. I mean, I like being busy. So
yeah. Dieting too. Let's just touch on that really quickly, because we don't really touch on that much on the show.
Yeah.
The diet that you went through. I hate using the word diet. The food plan, the nutrition plan that you had going into college, and even now, what should that kind of be like? Give us some guidelines if you can.
Okay. So, well, obviously it was a transition. I always ate decently healthy, like throughout high school. But going into college, like your main focus is your protein, because I mean, for one, like when you go, many people from high school to college, like you're pretty scrawny, like you haven't really developed your muscles yet.
Right.
And that's what like you're looking to build to, like, be your foundation for the next 4 years. So they really push protein. You need some carbs in there, vegetables. And they say like over half your plate should be like protein and carbs, and then like the other should be your vegetables. But in the morning, like before weights, they like us to get in a good like carb, like a Rice Krispie. It sounds dumb, but it's a good source of sugar and carbs.
Rice Krispies are, a lot of trainers and a lot of nutritionists say that's actually a good snack.
It is, and I put peanut butter on mine. It's really good. But so that's
like I have M&Ms on mine, so
yeah, I love to top it with something. They're super good.
Yeah.
But and then after you do like your protein shake, as well as you get your breakfast, which is normally like your eggs, bacon. Really focusing on
what kind of protein, by the way?
Do what?
What kind of protein shake?
We have Core Powers here.
Core Power. Okay.
So they're 26 grams, or we can get our 42 grams.
Okay. My sister has turned me on recently to plant plant-based protein, which I've been
We have some
drinking.
of those too. I haven't tried them yet.
They're not
I
bad.
might try
They're
them
actually pretty
Monday.
good. Yeah,
Oh,
plant-based
okay.
protein. My sister is big. I'm a healthy eater as well, but she turned me
Mhm.
on to that, and I like it, and I think it's good for athletes as well, because a lot of athletes don't really know. You're the exception, but a lot of athletes don't know the preservatives and the certain ingredients that are in. Even I mean, weightlifters now, when they're
Right.
adults, don't really know the ingredients in
Yeah.
certain proteins. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Honestly, they say get like almost so your body weight in grams. So like I'm a good 170 now. So like they say to like maintain or at least build muscle, you want to get 170 grams of protein
Yeah.
throughout the day. And so doing that, like it's hard to do that with strictly 3 meals. So something I do is like I'll eat breakfast, protein, and then I'll get like some nuts or I'll drink another protein shake in the middle, and then you'll have lunch. And some people grab like those little tuna packets.
Yeah.
And the flavored ones, some people are very disgusted by it, but you can put on like some crackers, get that in. That's another, like, I think 15 grams of protein. And then really at dinner, you want to emphasize like, I don't know, a grilled chicken. Like some people do like an 8-ounce chicken breast with like maybe 1/3 cup of white rice. And so there's your protein, carb. And then some people will do like some zucchini with it.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge vegetable eater, but I try to, like some spinach because my mom enforces it on me because I don't really like the greens. But that's mainly like what we focus on. They try to get you to steer away from the sodas and the fried food. Even though it's good, like it's just it really like puts a damper on your body because you're trying to build it and then you just like go back down the hill and you just feel crappy.
Yes.
Like I feel bad when I eat that.
I think I've said this on the show before, and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to kind of do a humble brag here. I haven't had fast food, not counting Chipotle,
Of course not.
in 2 years.
What?
And I haven't had soda in 2.5 years. And my body,
that's something to brag about.
I can't even imagine drinking soda and what it would taste like to me.
Yeah, I haven't had one in a good while.
There's a lesson in there, kids.
Yeah.
Take it from us. Stay away from the soda. How can also too, one more thing, how can freshmen and even just players in general win a spot when they step on campus? And what can they do to be prepared to say, hey, I don't know, Sally here wants to take Casidy's spot in the outfield. How can they go about that? What do they need to do to be prepared for that?
So I would say outworking your competition is definitely something to do. Like that's what our coaches preach about. They're like, be comfortable like with the competition, like push the one in front of you to be better. And I think that's really important. Like you have to, if they're coming in after practice and they're getting, I don't know, 50 reps on the tee, you come after practice and you do 75. Like, basically you always want to one up what they're doing and go 100% like in practice. If you see someone like diving, even for like balls, they might not have to, like you can still tell they're giving 150 like every single practice and being consistent. Like you don't want to show up one day and then like give 150% and then like the next day you're like, oh, I'm not feeling good. Like the one day you're not feeling good, someone might be feeling great, and then the coach might be like, oh, like this girl goes 100% every day, let me give her a shot. So that might be like your token in, like she might just do a switch and then you're the starter for like the rest of the, you just can't take a day off.
Yeah. Final thing here, approach. What is as much as you can tell us, I don't want to give your secrets away. What is your approach though at the plate, physically, but also especially mentally?
So I'm still working on mine. It shouldn't change, but mine sometimes differs. First, which many people harp on, like first pitch strikes, like that's probably one of the best pitches you're going to get other than like if they're way behind in the count. So you really want to try to attack that first pitch. Sometimes I get caught off guard and I'm like, you weren't expecting it. Or sometimes you don't think it was like the right call, but that's one thing I try to do. I try to like find that first strike that I think I can drive. So like if my thing's inside pitches, I want to look for like the first inside pitch I can go with. Or if mine's outside, I want to look for the same outside pitch. And then you just want to do all you can with that pitch. Like we focus on long balls. So that's like what your first goal is. And then if you have to tone it down throughout your at bat, then you would do so. But I would say mine is definitely like first pitch strikes. That's what you attack on. And like, if I don't miss that, then I have to kind of take a step back and be like, okay, well now I'm behind in the count. I need to look for still a good pitch, but I'm going to expand my zone to maybe inside and outside. And then if I'm, way behind in the count 2-0, 0-2, then I'm like, all right, well, anything close, or any like strike that's close, I'm going to have to, attack on. So I guess really I focus on first pitch strike. And what I try to lay off the rise balls. They look so good coming in, but then you swing and the catcher's like standing up here. I'm like, oh, well, that was about 3 feet over my head, but I'm going to go sit back down. Getting ahead in the count for me is one of the things.
That's why major league teams now emphasize the spin rate, because high spin rate, those quote unquote rise balls, and in softball, certainly there's that in baseball, and guys swing and miss at them.
They're hard.
High spin rate. Yeah,
exactly. I would rather hit velocity.
Next week, Ep will be back. Hopefully he's not sick still. He will be back, and we'll be touching on our upcoming top 10 free agents. That's okay. We're a little behind, but that's okay, because the CBA folks might be up in a couple of weeks, and we may have sort of a lockout or so. That's okay. Everybody's going to be delayed. That's all right. But we'll be touching on that next week. Our top 10 free agents, who we think they are. Nobody has signed yet, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know anyway. We'll be touching on that. And then, of course, we'll break down the swings of the top 10 free agents, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody can see it on the graphic on the YouTube side. And if you're not watching on the YouTube side, that's your problem. And you should be. The Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast YouTube page. So that is next week. By the way, who is your favorite major league hitter? I
don't know. I'm asked that. I've been asked that a few times. I don't know.
You don't have one. Do you watch Major League Baseball?
I do sometimes. We grew up watching like football, but I do so I feel like Jake's swing is similar to Bregman's on some pitches. So I like to see some of his at bats, because he has a very flat plane, and I can relate to it a little bit. But
so Bregman is one of your favorites.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. All right.
One of them.
Yeah. Fair enough. He's not a free agent, so we will not be discussing. We will be discussing Correa though.
Oh, okay. I like him.
Yes. So your favorite player, I'm guessing, is Bregman, but you're more of you watch a lot of football, so football's the main sport that entertains you.
My dad does. I kind of watch whatever he has on.
Okay. Is he an NFL or college fan? Well, in the South, I'm guessing
he watches any sport that plays on TV.
Is he an LSU fan, or what are we talking about here?
He was.
Now he's a Mizzou fan.
Do what?
Now he's a Mizzou fan.
Yes, exactly. I try to throw away his LSU shirts as much as I can.
That's right. Okay. Is there anything you want to promote besides your social media? Anything you have coming up? And also, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I have to do it. I do it to Ep every week, and I think he hates it. Just promote the Lab BCS for us. You've been there before.
Yeah.
You've worked there. What has Jake got going on there?
Jake, I have to say, is continuing one of the like the best hitting facilities I have been using. He has all this technology. He has this he has like a screen in front of you, and then like this big old thing you can zoom in on. And literally I could probably count the freckles on my arm is like how the definition of it. Yeah. And just the place it's at, it's like secluded. There's never any traffic, so parents would probably like that. You can get to where you're going. There's a lot of food places around it, but I just like the atmosphere of the lab. And it's normally like you and him one-on-one. He gives you everything he's got right there. He'll tell you straightforward how it is. So I highly recommend it. I highly recommend going and seeing what it's got to offer. Yeah. So log on to the labbcs.com for more information. That was a great plug for the lab. Oh, great thank you. We should just, we should just splice that out, and every week we should just put that in. There we go. As the plug. Yeah, good promotion. There you go. So anything you want to promote before we get going here? I don't think so. Besides your social media, you want to do that one more time? I can. My Instagram is CASIDY _CHAUMONT. And you're more Instagram than Twitter. Yeah, my Twitter's the same thing without the underscore. Do you want to? All my social medias. Okay. Do you want to promote your TikTok? Oh Lord. Do you have a TikTok? All the kids. I do nowadays. Have a TikTok. I do have one. I never really made videos until like recently. I'm seeing people are like making money from it. I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just be myself on it? So yeah. So what is your TikTok? Is my thing? TikTok, I think, is my first and last name too. So CASIDY and then just CHAUMONT. Yeah. So you got to join TikTok, everybody. It's all the rage. Don't listen to what Ep and I say everyone's every week. Crazy about it. Yeah. Us old guys, we don't do TikTok, but all the kids are doing it. So go ahead and do it. All the kids are doing it.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. Casidy, thank you for joining
Absolutely.
us. This was a great episode, and we will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.